Help! I'm stuck. Have any of us ever been there before? Where we're just screaming, help! I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I am stuck. I think about this in our lives, and I think so many of us, we deal with different forms of being stuck. And specifically for the next 3 weeks, I want to address what I believe are 3 categories where we can just be stagnant, we can be stuck, and we don't know how to move forwards. And today, really what we're addressing getting stuck in the past. But the problem with getting stuck in the past is we don't feel like we're stuck in the past. We just feel like everything is chaos. And I'm believing today that I'm going to be able to give you some tools to recognize, am I stuck in the past? And if so, how do I get unstuck? Something that we have had to deal with recently is my parents, they moved to a ranch about 5 years ago now. And before that, we just lived in the suburbs. And you never got a car stuck in the suburbs ever. But I tell you what, you get out to a 66-acre ranch, and all of a sudden, you're getting cars stuck left and right. And what we had to learn was our assumptions were not effective when you actually got stuck. That there were certain things you should do and certain things you should not do. And today, my hope and my prayer is that I would communicate effectively the things that you should do and the things that you should not. If you have a Bible with you, we're going to be reading 1 Kings, chapter number 19, verses 1 through 5. This is the story of a man named Elijah. If you're familiar with the word, you would know Elijah is one of the big characters in the Old Testament. He's what we would call a major prophet. His legacy, the effect he leaves behind, is among the greatest men of the Old Testament, men like Moses, men like Abraham. He is incredibly revered. And specifically, there's a moment in his ministry where he confronts idolatry among the children of Israel. And this is as climactic of a scene as the Bible paints. It's Elijah and it's 450 prophets of Baal on a mountain. He confronts them and he prays that God would answer with fire, sending down fire from heaven to consume the altar of the priests who served the one true God. I mean, I'm talking this could be in a fantasy book level confrontation. And he comes off of this moment into 1 Kings 19, which is what we're reading. And I think it's so fascinating for us because if we're not careful, we think we get stuck when we're down. Yet, friends, so often I believe the past rears its ugly head when we're up. When we've just hit the high we've been aiming at, when we just hit the place we said, when I get there, I'll be happy. I'll be fulfilled. I'll be excited. Once I get there, all will be well. Elijah, he ends his confrontation by literally beheading all 450 prophets of Baal. Enemy has been defeated. And he leaves this place, and the first thing he does is he starts running. And the last chapter, it ends with this idea that Ahab, the king of Israel, he flees from this confrontation with Elijah. He's afraid of Elijah, and he runs to his wife, Jezebel. And yet, as he was running in a chariot about 20 miles out, Elijah, he pulls up his pants, and he goes and he outruns the chariot 20 miles. So going into this, you already have to know Elijah has already run 20 miles. Got it? Okay, here's what it says. Then Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done and how he had slain the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah saying, "So let the gods do to me, and even worse, if by this time tomorrow I don't make your life like one of them." Frightened, he got up and ran for his life. When he came to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah, he left his servant there. But he himself, he went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a broom bush. He prayed that he might die. "It's too much," he said. "Now, Lord, take my life, for I am no better than my fathers." And then he lay down and slept under a broom bush. Let's pray. Father God, I pray right now that you would help to calm our chaotic minds. And God, that when the world seems to be going crazy, when we're running and we're afraid, you would just be the calm in our life. In Jesus' name, amen. I have this belief that I discovered is true this week, which is that one of the greatest problems facing our culture is people's inability to sit in silence. In fact, back in the 1600s, there was a mathematician, and he was actually a Catholic as well, and he's a very well-known man. His name's Blaise Pascal. And he wrote, and he said, all of humanity's problems can be tracked back to our inability to sit quietly alone in a room. And this is 400 years ago, before Instagram, social media, instant gratification culture. I'm talking, they're walking miles for water, and he's like, the problem is people can't sit in silence. Imagine if he lived today. Now, a study was done by Harvard and UVA researchers, and what they did was they took a group of several thousand people, and they put them in a room, just kind of a regular room, some couch, some regular furniture, but nothing particularly entertaining. No games to play. They just put them in a room for anywhere from 6 to 15 minutes. And they were just alone in this room. But to spice things up, they put a button in the middle of the room. And they said, this button, if you press it, it will electrocute you. That's the only instruction that they're given. And in fact, before they began this experiment, they were asked, hey, if you had to choose between getting electrocuted or paying us so that you don't have to be, what would you choose? And the vast majority said, I will pay to not be electrocuted. But then when the experiment begins, remember, they're in this room for 6 to 15 minutes. We're not talking about hours. We're talking about minutes. 67% of men pressed the button. 25% of women did. One man pressed the button over the course of 15 minutes 190 times. This should tell us something. We hate sitting in silence. We can't do it for nothing. Do you sleep with your phone by your bed? I bet you do. I think if we went around this room and I started asking people, we'd be shocked how many people have entertainment or conversation going on up until the moment we fall asleep. And here's what I know. So often noise, it fits in with the inner mantra in our souls. Because so many of us, we feel chaotic, we feel upset, and anytime we stop, it catches up with us. And so what do? We create environments where there's always noise, there's always movement, there's always motion, so that we never have to deal with what happens when it gets quiet. Today, I want to speak from the subject, help, because I am stuck. And specifically, I truly believe that if we're going to get unstuck, step number one is we got to stop. We have to stop the movement, the motion. We have to calm our chaotic minds. And so my question for you, friends, is what does the world sound like to you when it gets quiet? Do fears come up? Do anxieties come up? Does that thing you don't want to think about start making its way into your mind? Because here's what research is telling us. People don't want to sit in silence because their inner self-talk is so negative. that if they get quiet, they start tearing themselves down, so they'd rather not be able to hear themselves at all. If we take it a step deeper, friends, what I really believe we're dealing with is we're dealing with unresolved trauma. Here's what trauma is. It's when life hits you and it sends your world spinning. All of a sudden, what you knew to be true, what you knew to be real, what you thought you could count on no longer feels stable. You start spinning and your mind, it wants to grab onto something. If you've ever dealt with grief, this is why so often you notice really weird details. Personally, in our family, we had a very close family friend. About 6 months ago, he committed suicide. And in that moment, I got to tell you, really weird thoughts started coming into my head. My mind was grabbing onto details which didn't seem to matter. And yet still my mind is reaching out for something. Here's why. Because your mind is trying to make it stop spinning. And so you're noticing random colors, details are jumping out at you that you've never cared about before. It's because your mind is trying to say, let's find something stable. Because this isn't safe. I'm going to get a little bit technical, but I'm asking you to come with me because I believe it's going to help you. Inside of your brain, there's an alarm system. And this alarm system, experts call it the amygdala. It's about the size of an almond. And what happens when trauma takes place is your amygdala, your alarm system, it becomes hyperactive. It starts screaming danger at things that are not dangerous. It starts saying run when there's nothing to be afraid of. And what happens with our amygdala is that we have begun training ourselves that because everything's a threat, I can never stop running, otherwise the threats will catch up. And so what's happening is we're running from a storm, yet we don't realize the storm has already caught us. And so what's happening is we're running with a storm, which means we're in the storm longer. Friends, today what we're dealing with is we're dealing with this idea of being stuck because I'm running. And let me give you some good news and some bad news here. I'm a bad news first kind of guy. I'm like, let's get it out of the way. The bad news is there is no magic pill. Ozempic ain't gonna fix this. We're not in the Matrix. It's not red or blue. What we're dealing with is it's a problem. It's an assault on not just your body, not just your mind, but also your soul. And so if we're going to combat this issue, listen to me, we're going to have to deal with it at every level. And yet the good news, friends, is there is hope. Because how many of us know we're sitting in this room because we believe there is a God who is constant, who is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Come on, somebody. Could you just clap your hands if you know we serve a God who speaks order into chaos? Come on, somebody. If you serve a God who spoke and the world came into being, if you serve a God who says, be still and know that I am God. He doesn't say be active. He says, be still. Sometimes, friends, we got to be still and know that he is God. Be still and know that I am God. I look at the life of Elijah and I see a man caught up in a treadmill of emotion. Comes off the biggest moment, one of the biggest moments in the Bible for the record. I mean, you want to look at God answering powerfully. He sends fire down from heaven. I mean, come on, somebody. If God answered that prayer for me, you couldn't get me to shut up about it. I guarantee you that. Immediately after this moment, he doesn't celebrate. He doesn't rest. He doesn't take a nap. He runs. And the question is, why? Why in your life does every time a good thing happens, do you start running? Why can you never enjoy it? Why can't you take a compliment? Why can't you receive the good other people are wanting to do for you? I'll tell you why. It's because something in here isn't right. And your brain is screaming danger, but there's nothing dangerous here. What I notice about people is we run and we run and we run. In fact, I want to tell you how far Elijah runs. Elijah runs 20 miles to outrun Ahab. And then he actually runs, when Jezebel sends him the note, all the way to Beersheba. That's a 100-mile journey. It's estimated it took him 5 days. 5 days he spends running. And then he's not done. Now his running takes him into isolation. He leaves his servant. He goes 15 more miles into the wilderness. And then finally, he screams at God, and then he goes to sleep. What I didn't have time to go into is the next thing. An angel wakes him up, next verse, and goes, you need to eat. It's hilarious to me because sometimes we're going, God, when are you going to fix this mess? I don't know how to get through this. And he goes, when are you going to take a nap? When are you going to eat some food? Some of us in this room, we're struggling with emotional regulation, yet we're not eating breakfast. It sounds silly, but listen, if you go to counseling, if you were to go to a psychologist and you start saying, man, here's what I'm dealing with in my life, one of the first things they're going to ask is, how's your diet? How's your sleep? Because the attacks of the enemy, they don't stay in one place. It's like trauma. Trauma doesn't stay in the past. No, it moves in. And if we're not careful, we will say, well, that surely couldn't be the problem. Matthew, it's not that I only sleep 4 hours a night. Matthew, it's not that I don't have any intimate relationships where I share what's going on in my heart. No, it's this past, but even that's not the problem, Matthew. That doesn't bother me anymore that my dad left. That doesn't bother me. I'm fine. But friends, I'm telling you, we're not fine. And if you cannot stop, it means that you're running from something. And we have to be willing to calm our chaotic minds. Elijah's story is so interesting because I see myself in so many of these places where he's overreacting to a threat that's just kind of crazy to me, if I'm honest. The majority of Jezebel's authority and influence was through religion, was through these prophets of Baal. He just absolutely obliterates it all. And she writes him a letter, and now he's afraid. Are y'all recognizing this? He just stood up to 450 prophets of Baal who would do anything that she said. God answers with fire. He kills them all. And then he gets to town and he gets a letter and he freaks out. How many of us were fine in the throes of it at work, but we get home and one piece of bad news from someone close to us, man, it sends us into a tailspin. How many of us, the wrong information at the wrong time, it can be small, but all of a sudden our response is big. For days, we're running. For days, we're spinning. We don't know how to deal with it. I'm telling you, if you respond big to something small, it means you need some help. If we're overreacting to small things, there's something going on in your soul. Listen, if running leads you to isolation, then I'm telling you right now, there's something going on in your soul. And many of you may be saying, well, Matthew, they just weren't strong enough to go along with me. Homie, you ain't strong enough either. You're going to collapse sooner or later. And that's the problem with this idea that I can do it on my own. I'm an independent woman. Come on, how many of us have heard that recently? I don't need no man. I need a wife, I'll tell you that. I need people. In fact, if I can be vulnerable with you, about 10 months ago now, I was on the verge of emotional breakdown. And I resonate with this story because it was very much our story. We were looking for a building. We had finally found a building. It was this building. Man, things were going well. The church was growing. We were making forward progress like we had never made before. And you would think I'd be energized, I'd be excited, I'd be pumped. But friends, I was drained, I was out of gas, and I was on the verge of collapse. That's because I was doing it alone. At a particular men's event that we were having, I had the opportunity to just really open up and say, hey, here's what's going on. I'm not okay. And it was amazing because these men, who I'm supposed to be the pastor, right? I'm supposed to be everything's okay. I have the answer. I didn't have the answers. I was stuck. They began to rally around me and pray over me. It was an experience I was not expecting, but I tell you what, I so needed it. And then I started getting calls the next day and the next day and the next day. And it's amazing. They just said, Matthew, what do you need? I didn't know, but I know now, so what can I do? I think so many of us, we go, well, Matthew, they won't understand. But that's just a lie. We all get stuck sometimes. So we have to be willing to say, help, I'm stuck. So what I want to do is I want to give you 4 keys to getting unstuck. Specifically in this idea of there's something that I don't even know how to process. All I know is when I get quiet, it all starts falling apart. All I know is silence is my enemy. Step number 1, I mentioned it earlier. Listen, friends, you got to eat something. It sounds silly, but one of the greatest health crises in our culture is the fact people don't get outside and people don't eat good food. The first thing you got to do is you got to take care of your physical body. I love it. Before God addresses Elijah, which, by the way, he does if you read on through 1 Kings 10, before he addresses the emotions, before all of this has to be dealt with, he lets him take a nap, and then he feeds him, and then he lets him take another nap, and then he feeds him again. And I just love it because we're reading a book that God's informing the rest of humanity for the rest of time on how to get out of a place that we're stuck. And the first thing he's doing is he's like, take a nap and have some food. And some of you need to take a nap. You need to have some food. And it sounds silly to say it in church, but for some of us, we are so exhausted from running. We do not have the ability to face what we're going to have to face. And so you have to rest. You have to refuel for what's coming next. Are y'all hearing me? We got to take care of the simple thing first. The next one is this. We have to be honest. We have to be honest with God, and we have to be honest with others. I love what Elijah says. It's too much. Man, I think that says it all. Sometimes it's too much. He gets honest with God. And because of this moment of vulnerability and honesty, he's able to open up a dialogue where he starts doing the work that needs to be done. And if I could just speak into your life as a friend and as your pastor for just a moment, friends, what you are unwilling to confront is something you will never be able to correct. If you can't put a name to it, I guarantee you will not fix it. Let me say it another way. What you're unwilling to acknowledge, you will never be able to confront. And so we have to be willing to look at the issue and be radically honest. It's funny, I talk to people all the time, and they have this kind of wordiness where they're like, man, I've just been struggling. What you been struggling with? Oh, I don't. I don't know. You got to tell me. We got to be honest. Well, social media. What on social media? Let's get down. Let's be honest. Okay? If we're watching porn, I've been struggling with porn. All right? We can move forward from here. But I'm just sad. What are you sad about? Are y'all hearing me? We got to be honest. I love what Elijah says. After this encounter with God, he goes and he tells God, I'm the only prophet that's left. Nobody else is around. And here's the problem when it's all inside and you never tell anybody, is sometimes you're just wrong. Because there were prophets left, as it turns out. And sometimes we just got to be honest because we're believing a lie. And if we would be honest, somebody could say, hey, there's good news. That's not even the case. You don't even have to be worried about that. And this brings us to the third thing you have to do. You have to be willing to change your mind. We got to replace lies with the truth. What I'm going to share with you, it's a biblically based teaching, but it's actually backed by psychology. In fact, if you want to understand how you heal trauma, these are the steps any counselor is going to take you through. Now, they may have different verbiage for it, but these are the clinically proven steps to heal trauma. The problem most individuals make when dealing with trauma is we think, I just need to forget about it. Once I don't think about it anymore, it'll all be okay. The problem is the brain, it don't forget. In fact, the thing the brain remembers most is highly emotional events. And so there ain't no forgetting when you're traumatized. But what we can do, even though we can never forget, is we can reframe. We can tell a different story. And so here are the steps. The first thing is you find a place where it's safe, where your alarm system in your brain that's screaming danger quiets down. It's this idea of naming it in safety. Hey, here's what's going on. I'm hurting. For me, it was that men's group. My alarm system had turned off. I wasn't in work mode. I wasn't in go mode. I was calm, and I was able to name what was going on. Man, I'm on the edge of collapse. I'm burnt out. I got nothing left. You name it in safety. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to ask God in this process to help us. God, what lies am I telling myself? What lies am I believing about what's happened? Once we've talked to God about the lies that we're believing, we're going to ask Him for the truth. And then lastly, we're going to tell a better story. And so for you today, it's a very simple process. You acknowledge there's a problem. And in a safe environment, you figure out, man, what are the lies I'm believing? What's the truth? Okay, now I'm going to tell a new story. And the last thing I want to tell you is this, and we're going to finish with this, is you have to get in relationship. It's not actually an option. It's funny, I've had people tell me that I'm just a hermit. What does that even mean? Like, no, you're not just a hermit. It turns out we were made for relationship. It turns out we need each other. I love Genesis. In Genesis 2, verse 18, it's the first time something's not good in creation. God says it's not good that man's alone. Okay, right there you got it. You're not supposed to be alone. You need some friends. In fact, back in 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General, he declared a national emergency at the isolation crisis we're dealing with. Literally, the U.S. Surgeon General, he declared, we are in a crisis emotionally because of isolation. Are y'all hearing me? We're in a bad spot. And stats are only getting worse. In fact, what we're finding is that most men have no close friends. No one they share their emotions with. No one they're honest with. No one they can rely on. And friends, I got to tell you, we are the solution. It's hilarious to me because people think church is just about getting to God. Church is about getting to God. And you know where God is? He's in the body. It's the body of Christ. Not just some people who get together on Sunday, Saturday. No, we're the body, friends. And so today what I want to encourage you with is this very simple idea that maybe you're stuck, but friends, there's a way to get out, yet it's going to take a little bit of work. Are you hearing me? And so if you're in a place that you're going, help, I'm stuck, you're probably going to have to get uncomfortable. You're going to have to share things you'd really rather not share. You're going to have to confront things you'd really rather not confront. And we're going to have to deal in ways we really don't want to deal. But if you want to get better, there is hope. You guys hearing me? There is hope for you today. You can get better. Would you guys bow your heads and close your eyes for just a moment with me? And as Isaiah comes up and plays the keys for me here for just a minute, what I remember about the story of Elijah is, though he's alone at the beginning, he's not alone by the end. And God has a funny way of bringing what we need when we're ready for it. And if you're at a place where you're ready to go, help, I am stuck, then I just believe we serve a God who's going to tell you, hey, I got what you need. And so whatever part of the process you're in, whatever step you need to take, maybe you're like, Matthew, I sleep great at night. That's awesome. But maybe you're not being honest. Maybe you've been honest, but you've never confronted the lies that you're believing. Maybe you confronted them, maybe you've made it through that, and you're like, Matthew, I'm doing well. But you don't have any friends. You don't have anybody to help you. And can I just tell you, if there's nobody with you, you're going to get stuck again and again and again and again until you get some friends. What I love about this passage is Elijah, we never read that he has another breakdown after he gets his best buddy Elisha. They start rolling together, and all of a sudden Elijah, he's able to make it through. I think it's a prophetic word for us today, friends. Maybe you're stuck because you're alone, but I'm just believing God's bringing someone right now who can walk alongside you, who can make sure you ain't getting stuck again. You're not falling for that trick. I believe this is a place where you can plug in. I believe this is a place where you can belong. And I know because 10 months ago, I needed it. And you showed up and were there for me. So I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm believing that we all need to be willing to say, hey, help. I'm stuck. And so God, right now, if we're stuck, if we don't know where to go, God, I pray that you would help to quiet the noise. God, whatever the voices are that want to come up, they want to start screaming and shouting, God, I just pray that they would be still. And Lord, that we would know that you are God. You are the constant in the chaos. God, I pray we would lean on you, we would cling to you, we would look to you, we would believe in you. God, when it's going well, we would worship you. When it's going bad, we would cling to you, we would hold on to you, we would cry with you. But God, no matter what, we'd be with you. God, it's in your mighty name that I pray.